Welcome to part 7 of the 2018 NFL Draft in Review. Today we will be looking at the 2018 Cincinnati Bengals Draft. And as you can see, I don't really have a lot of tabs here for highlights because this didn't turn into a very good class for the Bengals. A lot of real dumb guys in this class, as we'll get to. But first up is the 21st overall pick, center Billy Price. Now, Billy Price has not really had very much staying power team for team. He was through with the Bengals in 3 years, only stayed 1 year with the Giants, was on the Raiders practice squad at one point. And then the Cardinals pulled him off of that, and he started a good chunk of games with the Cardinals last year. Now, in spite of the fact that he's started 45 games, I can't actually find anything of him to watch. So, really, it's just the defining feature I can think of in this is that they just 4 teams in 5 years. You know, he's evidently good enough to play and keep playing, but he's not been good enough for anybody to keep so far. So, that's all I can really say for him. As that brings us to the 54th overall pick, safety Jesse Bates. Bates has pretty much been the unquestioned best player of this class for the Bengals, as he's really a big part of why they ended up in the Super Bowl back in 2021. And as we can see in this, he's good at tackling, he's good with the ball in his hands. You know, he can get the ball in his hands, but he doesn't always catch it. You know, a lot of deflections. That's another good thing to see. There's started, I think, all but 3 potential games that he could have in his career so far. So we'll move over here and take a little look. I actually watched this play live, and what a Vikings way to fuck up a game. Frankly, that's why I don't believe in play overtime so that you'll tie if you don't win. You're taking off time, which is good, but you're also just not doing what you need to, in my opinion. You're not giving yourself extra chances. You're not trusting your defense. Very good heads-up, wrap-up play right there. He's pretty good at finding his way to the football, which is, of course, quality I've previously mentioned I love to see, particularly among safeties. You know, just the aggression, the view of the field, everything you need to get to the ball carrier, tackle him. Though, of course, it obviously helps when you're facing a Steelers offense that, at this point, has no faith in its quarterback and just keeps throwing check down after check down. Yeah, even the Patriots weren't quite as sad with that as the Steelers have been. Crushing, I believe that's Devontae Adams. Not too many of his interceptions in this reel, which I find a little bit unfortunate. I took some enjoyment in watching him pick off Patrick Mahomes. But overall, this shows what he is. This is part of why he's so valuable to the Bengals offense. He is very good at identifying the play, finding the ball carrier, and making sure they don't get anything. You know, that's Lamar Jackson right there. Even with what I've said about Lamar Jackson, it's impressive to get that guy on the field. just short of the end zone. Always painful for a defensive guy. But yeah, I think we've seen a good idea of what Jesse Bates is like. So that brings us to number 77 pick, defensive end Sam Hubbard, who's pretty much the only other player in this class who's really worth taking a look at. As he's been a pretty good piece of the Bengals defensive line. 60-plus tackles combined every season except as a rookie. 6+ sacks every year except for his third season. And he's doing this while missing pretty much at least one game every year. So I find that interesting. These stats could be even better if he were to play a full 17 games. You know, I wouldn't say that he'd absolutely be a 10-sack, 80-plus tackle guy, but he's got the potential. And so here we go.
Look for Carson. Little reverse right here.
Yeah. Rare mistake by Russell Wilson there. She probably should have kept running.
Cincinnati right now, flying around the field. Wilson buried again.
This is what I've said, that Russell Wilson, the injury he sustained, it was inevitable. Look at the Seahawks offensive line. It is terrible.
It's a nice play to start. Yeldon in the backfield. The pitch goes to Yeldon. He's got some blockers, and he fumbled the football. It's recovered on the 10-yard line. The Bengals say they have it. It's Cincinnati football.
He got hammered on that.
Able to avoid the sack the first go-around.
This is the kind of pass rusher that Patriots badly need. Somebody who can keep up and not just get stun-locked by the moves that these mobile quarterbacks make. You know, that's Russell Wilson he made a play on, Kyler Murray. You've got to be able to keep up with quarterbacks like that in this league, and some of the Patriots have missed. If we could poach him off the Bengals, that'd be great. Unlikely, but let me dream. It's always nice to have a player like this in these years where we see here the Bengals 0-11. Obviously, you've really got to just take what you can get.
Brady with pressure coming. Brady goes down.
Getting Tom Brady, you know. Say anything you want about Tom Brady. We all know how hard sacking him is, and Sam Hubbard did it. So, like I say, he's a good defensive piece, and it's this Bengals unit. It's not unbeatable. We see some teams sometimes push them around, but more often than not, they can hang with really anybody. And it's players like Bates and Hubbard that are why. Now we get into the meat and bones of why this class really wasn't very good. We start off with Malik Jefferson, the number 78 pick of the third round. He's pretty much never been really any higher than an occasional guy you plug in for a couple plays when your starter needs a breather. Assuming he's even on the active roster at the time. You know, we see a bunch of practice squad stays right there. Next we have dumbass number 1 of this class, and I say this because his legal issues are so incredibly numerous that I actually feel the urge to read it off from the official Wikipedia page. Walton was arrested 3 times during the 2019 offseason. He was first arrested and charged with misdemeanor marijuana possession January 16th of 2019 in North Miami-Dade. On February 15th, he was arrested for a second time and charged for misdemeanor battery for an altercation triggered after he grabbed a phone from a neighbor in Miami. The charges underlying his third arrest on April 4th stemmed from a March 12, 2019 incident in which Walton fled on foot from his rental car After police tried to pull him over, authorities found a rifle in his car and accused Walton of carrying a concealed firearm, resisting an officer without violence, possession of marijuana, and reckless driving. Walton pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor weapons charge from the March 2019 incident. On August 19, 2019, he received 6 months of probation and was required to turn in all his firearms as well as undergo anger management and driving courses. The 2 marijuana possession charges and battery charge were also dismissed. But then it's just, you stupid motherfucker, you didn't learn, did you? A couple months later, November 19th, he's arrested in Davie, Florida for allegedly attacking a woman who was 5 months pregnant with his child. Walton was charged with aggravated battery of a pregnant woman. On January 3rd, 2020, he was charged with a second count of aggravated battery of a pregnant woman for a different incident with the same woman in March of 2019. He was then arrested on February 27th of 2020 for violating a restraining order. And on May 13th, the aggravated battery charge from November 2019 was dropped. And then February 1st, 2021, he was arrested in Miami for allegedly breaking a Pizza Hut window. And again in March 24th for alleged armed robbery. It's like, any potential this guy had was promptly flushed entirely down the drain by his own actions. And that's, this is the kind of rap sheet that gives Antonio Brown a run for his money. And if he had been a star, him and Antonio Brown would probably be friends. Like, damn, dude. Chill the fuck out. Next up, we have the 151st pick of the 5th round, cornerback Devontae Harris. And Harris has had a bit of a moment in the sun, but he's kind of one of those ones who sort of faded into the background as another backup special teams sort of player. As you know, I tend to hate when this happens, but it happens, and sometimes that's just how it has to be. So, like I said, there's nothing really to see here. He's a backup player. Not a bad backup player, but a backup player. Though, considering the mountain of injuries the Titans sustained last year, if he could stay with the Titans, he might end up being a starter again. Next up, we have defensive end Andrew Brown. Again, nothing really to see here. Just a bunch of practice squad stays ever since being with the Houston Texans. It says that he's not on practice squad to the Chicago Bears, but, well, yeah, he's definitely a bench rider there. The Bears aren't solid defensively, but they're solid enough that they're not going to be throwing this guy into the fire anytime soon. Next up, we have the last player that we're going to actually take a look at, and that is Darius Phillips, a corner who's now playing for, I believe it is the Denver Broncos. Yep, the Broncos. And he's not quite as important of a player, I would say, as Hubbard and Bates, but he did have some really decent moments for his first couple of seasons in the NFL.
And this one is intercepted by Darius Phillips. Phillips stumbling forward down inside the 5-yard line. Play and a great move.
Yeah, beating on the Browns.
The big man right there. Now Mayfield going really deep.
This is just a bad pass by Mayfield. We'll be looking at that quarterback in question tomorrow.
For Phillips, out near midfield. Allen under pressure. He's trying to get away, trying to stiff arm, throws on the run. It's intercepted. The Bengals.
Yeah, that's something that you don't want to see from a quarterback.
Phillips, and he's along the sidelines and out of bounds. At about the 21-yard.
His mind. Yeah, and I can tell you a story about Andrew Luck. I'm doing a meeting with him as we take a look at this long ball. Intercepted. Taken away from the former Ohio State story later. Campbell.
Yeah, it's just good going up and getting the ball, beating the receiver.
From Mayfield, and he takes his shot, and that one is picked. Yes, it is.
I'm noticing a pattern here. Baker Mayfield seems to like throwing interceptions to this guy. Yeah. Short video, but it sums up things pretty nicely. Darius Phillips isn't exactly a top-flight corner option, but he's not a bad one either. He's not a bad one to have. A little buried now because he's with the Broncos, but again, that's just sometimes how it goes. Who's interested versus who will let you play don't often line up. Next we come to pick 249, quarterback Logan Woodside. I've mentioned in a previous video that Logan Woodside is one of the worst quarterbacks that I've ever evaluated. I don't know why he was drafted at all. You know, it's just really a waste of roster space, in my opinion. So, but nothing really more to say there. He hasn't been good in the NFL. He wasn't particularly good in the AAF. And now he's just kind of riding third string to Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. And we have pick 252, offensive guard Rod Taylor. This is the other dumbass of the class because this one just goes to show that no amount of money can buy any amount of intelligence. You know what the NFL's rules on shit like performance-enhancing drugs and marijuana are, and yet you just keep pushing the envelope. This guy is effectively the poor man's Josh Gordon. Lost his career by his own inability to lay off the weed. And then we have the final selection, pick 253, Auden Tate, wide receiver. And Auden Tate had a short moment, I would say. He wasn't a complete flop, but he didn't exactly have staying power either. Now he just practice squad riding, and again, as it always is, it's weird to see and it always sucks to see, but at the end of the day, the Bengals got better receivers, and he didn't really show that he could be a guy that other teams want to keep around, so now he gets to ride benches for the rest of his career, probably, unless he drops down a level to things like the Canadian Football League or the XFL or USFL if you want to have an absolute joke of a career. But overall, I put this class originally at about a B+ because the way I figured it, a lot of these players were going to end up playing for the Bengals because when the Bengals drafted this class, they were terrible. You know, they were coming off a playoff run in which they really probably, no, they weren't even coming off a playoff run. They were just coming off being mediocre. But in other words, they were basically mediocrity continuing to descend downwards because they were just losing more and more pieces. And that, of course, eventually leads to some of the drafts that we'll be going over in years to come. That completely turned the face of the franchise around, but at the moment of this class, like I said, it was about a B+ because I thought a lot of them were going to play. Quite a few of them somewhat did. Most of them didn't really have staying power, as I'm pretty sure it's just Bates and Hubbard that are still on the team. And just the rest of it just never really materialized. So I would say that between Price, Bates, Hubbard, and Phillips, I would bring this down to about a C. There were some good pieces here, but not really enough to justify a particularly good grade, and the just awe-inspiring amount of dumbassery from two of the players just drags it down even further, so that'll be it for this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and I will see you tomorrow for the 2018 Cleveland Browns draft, the one where they famously drafted Baker Mayfield, a player that I will be quite opinionated about.